Okay, everybody. So we're going to read our next chapter called Dr. Jekyll's Letter Continues. So we read the first part of Dr. Jekyll's letter yesterday, and he was describing why he created Hyde and how he would transform into Hyde and then back to Henry Jekyll again. So let's look carefully at this picture. Underneath it says the change that took place in the park surprised even the cool Mr. Hyde. So, what do you think is happening in this picture? What do you think the difference is between the top picture, the man with the cane here, the one sitting, and then what happened here? All right, so let's go ahead and jump back into our reading. So it says, I walked out into the lamp-lit streets for the last time as Edward Hyde. I happily thought of the killing I had just done. I even thought of killing again. Finally, as Hyde, and with a song upon my lips, I drank the mixture. A few minutes later, I was Henry Jackal with tears streaming down my face, and I fell upon my knees and begged God to forgive me. After the killing of Carew, my problem had been solved for me. I no longer had to choose between Jackal and Hyde. Hyde was impossible now, whether I wanted him or not. I had to live as my better side would choose. This thought made me happy, and I welcomed the limits of a natural life. I locked the back door by which I had so often gone and come, and ground the key under my heel. I knew as Henry Jackal that I must defend myself and others against the horror of Mr. Hyde. I decided I would make up for the past. In the future, I would use my skill as a scientist only to help others. You yourself, Utterson, must remember that time. I worked very hard. I helped the poor and went to church. But most of all, I enjoyed the company of my friends. In everyone's view, I was a new man. Even you did not seem to worry about me or the mysterious will any more. In those few months, I did become a happy man. Nothing could persuade me that Mr. Hyde would ever appear again. I had not yet learned that my fall to wickedness had destroyed my better side forever. The fact was that the strength that my wicked side had gained during the time of my experiment was still there. The morning that I awoke as Hyde should have told me that, but I chose not to think that way. Slowly but surely, I began to hear Mr. Hyde within me growling for freedom. It was not that I dreamed of bringing back Mr. Hyde. It was in my own person that I was once more eager to fool with my conscience. As a regular secret sinner, I fell before this inner cry. One fine, clear day in January, I was taking a walk in the park, enjoying the cool weather. I took long strides and deep breaths. The park was full of noises. I sat in the sun on a bench, the animal inside me stirring with old thoughts. I began to think that I was like my neighbors after all. Perhaps I was even a bit better. All my deeds seemed more than enough to set me right with the world. The good deeds of others seemed small next to mine. At that very moment, a terrible sick feeling came over me. Soon I was aware that there was a change in my thoughts. I looked down and saw that my clothes hung very loosely on my body. The hand that rested on my knee was hairy and thick. It was once more Edward Hyde. A moment before, I was a man of honor in all people's view. Now I was a hated man, hunted, a known killer. As Dr. Jekyll, I might have fallen apart at this moment, but as my second self, I was able to think more sharply. My drugs were in the laboratory. How was I to reach them? I had closed the laboratory door. If I entered through the house, my servants would call the police at the sight of a killer. Then how would I defend myself? I knew that I must get the drugs by getting help from another. I thought of Dr. Lanyon, but how could such a horrible creature persuade a famous scientist to do such a thing? Suddenly, I remembered that a part of Dr. Jekyll still remained in me. I could write a letter to Lanyon and Dr. Jekyll's hand. The way that I had to follow became clear. I now knew how to save myself. I jumped up from the bench and taking long strides, I quickly ran to put my plan in action. I arranged my clothes as best as I could and stopped a passing carriage. I drove to a hotel in Portland Street, the name of which I don't remember. Even though my ill-fitting clothes covered a horrible fate, my appearance was funny enough. The driver could hardly control his laughter. I growled at the man, and the smile vanished from his face. This happened just in time, for in another minute I would have dragged him down from his seat.